Yeah.
How do you personally dial in? You just got to get shit done.
Yeah, true.
What's your tactic?
That's a good question. You know what? What I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll make notes of what I need to accomplish. I'll literally put it in like kind of like a checklist form. So I'll do that first. I'll definitely have a coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Espresso or just coffee?
I do love espresso, but I go black coffee. This is Americano.
Okay. Fair.
Put on some tunes and then just lock in. But I'm a pen to paper guy though.
What's the go-to genre of music?
I would say I like hip hop. I'm not gonna lie,
Nice.
I'm a hip hop guy. But like I would probably go, if I was trying to dial in, I'd probably go Drake. Yeah, I'd go Drake for sure. Yeah.
If you could only choose one song by Drake, what song would it be?
For focus?
Yeah, just dialing in.
Let me think about that one.
This development has to go through.
I would say, so the album More Life, okay, for some reason, that is a great album for me for flow. I don't know why, but like I used to go to Starbucks to like get some work done, and I'd put that one on and I let it like run through, and maybe it's because it's not one of his best, but it's just like the sounds. Maybe it's like the lo-fi. I don't know if it's lo-fi or whatever, but I'm able to just like dial in. So that I would say that album for some reason, More Life by Drake. So.
Hello, my name is David Mill and I'm the founder and CEO of Scelta. I'm here joined today by Josh Burns, who is the real estate development manager at Fortis, who has a wealth of knowledge in the industry. Josh, how is it going?
Yeah, things are going well. It's Christmas. I'm looking forward to that. Happy to be here. It's a beautiful office you guys have.
Thank you.
We've known each other for a little while now, and I'm excited, to sit down and have a discussion about real estate development and, some of the stuff that you guys do. So thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this. First time ever doing a podcast. So
awesome. Our pleasure to have you for the first one.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. So Josh, you've been in real estate development and construction since 2016. So you've got a wealth of knowledge. Can you just kind of dive into what's gone on in the last 8 years?
Yeah. So after I graduated from the University of Windsor, I worked for IRCA, so Essex Region Conservation Authority, in their permitting department, so permitting for developments. After that, worked at Amico, managed some subdivision development projects, some subdivision sales. From there, I went to Dillon Consulting, where I was an urban planning consultant working on a number of different development projects between residential, commercial, industrial, institutional. And then from there I went to Fortis Group, where now I manage all of their projects in-house. Mm-hmm. And during that time I also got my master's in urban planning. So I have an urban planning background with a specialty in real estate development and mostly residential for the most part, but I've definitely done a lot of other stuff with respect to industrial, commercial, a little bit of institutional stuff as well. So yeah, it's been a good run so far.
Yeah.
I love what I do. But yeah, there's a lot more to learn. It's always evolving, and that's what I kind of love about it. So
yeah.
Well,
I'm excited to dive in. It sounds like there's a lot to learn.
For sure. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So as someone who's part of the planning process, part of the pro forma, is part of the sales, part of the marketing, part of the construction, part of the estimating. Can you just walk me through like a day in the life of real estate development manager job?
Sure. Yeah. So every day is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And to add on to that is I actually do some property management as well. So we have, rental products that we have, or we have housing units that we rent because they're future development sites. So, throw that in the mix too. So, that could be, I could be getting calls, on weekends, holidays, that there's issues in one of our buildings that we need to attend to. But every day is a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I always like to get a grasp of what's going on in the market. So kind of the first thing I'll do is I'll take a look and see what is traded or what's on the market. And then, it's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of reaching out to this person, reaching out to that person. I like to say kind of with respect to the developments is I'm kind of the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm in touch with the stakeholders. I'm in touch with the municipality. I'm in touch with our consultants. I'm in touch with Scelta or whoever's working on our marketing. So there's a lot of different people involved, and for me, it's kind of to make sure everybody's moving in the right direction. And then in addition to that, making sure that the project's on budget, our sales, if we're at that stage, are trending in the right direction, giving the folks the knowledge that they need to make the decisions that they need to make. So that's upper management, at Fortis Group. So our owners, giving them the appropriate information that they need. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. No 2 days are really the same. But I think the biggest thing is just being kind of on track, on task, understanding what the next step is in the process, and kind of just shepherding everybody in that direction to kind of accomplish, the project that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I have a lot of soft skills, I would say. I can communicate. I understand the process. I can bring people together. Project management is another skill that I kind of employ on a daily basis.
So you're onto something there, because you're bringing together all these different key stakeholders to do, because you couldn't do it on your own per se, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You lean on industry experts because you can't be great at everything. Right?
Sure, yeah, and you can't be an expert at everything, right? And planning. The idea of planning is kind of, you need to be a bit of you need to be a jack of all trades, in a sense. You need to understand engineering,
right?
Civil engineering. You need to understand, obviously, real estate in a sense. You need to understand how to work with, residents and citizens, people of a community. So ultimately, there's just a lot of things moving at once, and you just got to be able to kind of harness them all in the right direction and kind of get everybody on the same page, which is a challenge. It really is, and it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of input. It takes a lot of decisions being made. Sometimes it takes, sometimes you can't get everything you want ultimately, and that's just the process. Yeah. Sometimes you want to go and develop a building that is 8 stories. But because of, the planning process and maybe some of the pushback from residents nearby or so on and so forth, you're not able to develop to that desired height. You need to make sacrifices at times. Sometimes those sacrifices mean a project is not able to be, completed or developed because, the sacrifice ultimately doesn't yield a profitable development. Sometimes you can make it work, and sometimes you can offer a different product.
So it sounds like there's multiple parties involved in every project at every stage.
Yes, absolutely.
So Fortis has solidified themselves as sort of an industry leader in the real estate development and general contracting space. How do you feel that Fortis has created that edge in the industry?
We want to deliver a quality product that people are able to afford. Yeah. So essentially that's what we've targeted, and we've delivered on that, and people are very happy with the product that we offer. I actually know somebody that lives in one of our buildings, and that's in this room here with us. So I know that that's kind of been the goal, and we've achieved that. So and I think it just comes down to delivering, right?
Yeah.
If you're able to deliver, then your customers are going to come back, and you're going to be successful. So we pride ourselves on being able to deliver what we promise, and we've done that to date so far. So I think we're really happy about that.
Yeah, Fortis, we're very grateful to be able to work with you guys on some exciting developments.
For sure.
So for people who don't know about how real estate development comes to life, like let's say, everyone sees your beautiful finished product, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to bring that to fruition.
Yep.
So can you walk me through kind of like you have an empty parcel of land, or you haven't even acquired that parcel of land, just sort of high level, walk me through how that grows. Yeah,
so that's kind of the art of it too, is identifying pieces of property that are worth investing in and developing. Sometimes there's underutilized property, and what that means is it's a vacant piece of property, but maybe there's some contamination on the site, or there's some, we call it hair. When there's some hair on a property, there's some things that you need to, kind of either mitigate or work through to make sure that you can develop a property. So what happens is, let's say you're looking for land that you want to develop. You see a piece of property that you like. You might acquire it, or you might acquire it conditionally upon your due diligence. The seller of the property agrees to allow a period of time for you to do your homework, your research, your due diligence. At that point, you'll work with your, the municipal staff that your consultants, and kind of better understand anything you don't clearly see about that property. And they'll tell you if, okay, yeah, there is some slight contamination, but it's going to be, it's minimal to remediate, or no, this is extremely contaminated. This is going to cost $1 million to remediate. This isn't a good, buy. So you're going to go through all those things to kind of figure out, do you want to purchase the property?
Okay.
Let's say you find out that, yes, this property has, no major issues that are going to limit your ability to develop. You'll acquire the property. At that point, then you'll start your process with the municipality. If it needs to be rezoned, you'll start that process. The rezoning process can take about 8 months. When you go through the rezoning process, you're going to submit your plan to the city for pre-consultation. They'll then give you essentially a letter that documents all of the studies and reports that you're going to need to be able to get your approval. A lot of that is associated with servicing, stormwater management, natural environment, could be archaeological, there could be heritage, like cultural heritage. There's a number of things. Those are kind of the main ones, and there could be like other stuff like shadow studies, depending on what you're wanting to develop.
Noise studies, yeah.
Noise studies, exactly. So then what you'll do is you'll go and you'll do those reports. You'll get your consultants to go do that work for you. And then you'll submit your proposal, what you plan on building, with your reports to the city.
Yeah.
They'll then review it. And then essentially they'll make a recommendation whether to approve or deny your rezoning.
Okay.
And then once they make that recommendation, council will then review that recommendation and those reports and vote on it.
Okay.
So there's also another step in there where you do meet with residents of the surrounding area to kind of present what you're planning on developing.
Yeah.
And that's to kind of just educate them and let them know what you plan on doing. A lot of times that becomes a little bit of a fight in a sense, right? Because folks don't like things changing in their backyards, which is completely understandable. But ultimately, we do need to progress as a city, and we do need to, build and develop to allow folks to stay in their neighborhoods a lot of times, because when people get older, their family they have kids, they can't afford to stay in their neighborhood. Why? Because there's not enough housing units. That's another topic we can talk about. But essentially in the process here, so after your rezoning has been approved, you can then proceed essentially to the site plan control and building phase, where you can get your approvals in your building permit.
Okay.
So there's a lot of moving parts, and each piece is not the same.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about development, is because each piece of property isn't going to have the same process, isn't going to have the exact same steps.
Yeah.
There's kind of an overarching process, A, B, C, D, but not every piece of property requires you to go through each one of those steps. And sometimes there might be, like I said before, hair on a property that causes more concern, that you might actually have to be dealing with other agencies outside of just the city.
Right.
So that's kind of like, step by step, without getting into, fine detail, but that's kind of the big picture in terms of step by step.
Yeah. Well, it's a very cool and interesting process, and it sounds like each one can have its own challenges.
For sure.
I mean, and speaking of challenges, I remember in my past experience working for a real estate developer, general contractor, on Front Road, we went to go get approval on a condominium.
Yep. I know the project.
You know the project I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And that was my first time doing door knocking. So I went all along the surrounding homes right by the water, and I knocked on each of their doors to basically explain the development to them and try to get their petition, try to get a signature. Right. I remember how great of a learning process that was, because I had a few that would, didn't want to give me any time of day. Yeah. And then some that were very kind and would give me the time of day, listen to what I had to say. But it was almost like you had to get them on board. So it was almost like, okay, we're going to build this development. It's going to look like this, provide some preliminary renders, show them what is going to be their neighbor, and then tell them this is why it's going to improve, say, the value of your property or the access to your road, or, there's a lot of almost selling to the community before you sell to the city in a sense.
For sure.
Right? You have to band together and get the community on board.
For sure. I don't want to say you're not a salesman, but you know, that's how they see you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're kind of asking for something. But ultimately, the one thing I'll say is, you know, we're in a housing crisis right now. And what I mean by that is housing's unaffordable for everybody. You know, whether you have a beautiful, you know, 2-story home in the town of LaSalle, or you're in that market, or you are a first-time home buyer and you're looking to purchase in East Windsor, there's a lot of challenges. It's unaffordable.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the only way to kind of relieve the pressure is to provide more housing units.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks see development as, you know, a negative.
Yeah.
And they feel like it's going to impact them in a negative way, their property values in a negative way. But ultimately, with the standard that developers are held to today, they need to provide good product. They need to, you know, bring something to market that is going to be desired, and they are. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
whether it's Fortis bringing, you know, great condominiums or multi-residential purpose-built rentals, or there's a number of developers in Essex County that are bringing great product to the market, and ultimately it relieves that pressure. And let's say you do live in South Windsor and you have a family, you know, your kids are going to get to a point where they're going to want to buy homes, or they're going to want to live in South Windsor, and it's just not feasible for a lot of those folks to be able to purchase a single-family home in those neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. They're going to have, if they want to stay in those neighborhoods, they're going to have to live in a condominium. They're going to have to live in a townhouse. They're going to have to live in a purpose-built rental.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not going to be a great product. It's just not going to be a single-family home. So it's important that we get buy-in from residents.
Yeah.
And it's important that they kind of understand, you know, all these moving parts. And it's difficult because, you know, politicians don't fully understand, and that's not a shot at politicians. This is a very dynamic, very unique kind of circumstances and issues that we're facing. So it's public buy-in is critical.
Yeah.
To project success.
You know, and that brings up a good point. I want to talk through a point of contention. Sort of like, this is call it a myth, call it an impression that people have on real estate developers, is that obviously development charges are increasing, right? It's becoming more and more expensive and more challenging for developers to get projects off the ground. Now, let's say the government were to lower those fees for development charges, right? Whereas the community may think, oh, the developer's just going to make more profit on the development, right? Can you talk us through how important it is to reduce those development fees so that developers can get projects off the ground, and more product into the market? Yeah,
so to that point, so right now the city of Windsor is doing a study to review development charges. Yeah. And they've published the results of this study. And essentially, I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but essentially they're proposing, or the study is proposing, not the city, but the study, which indicate or provides information to the city to make decisions, is indicating that based on the budget requirements, that the city should almost double their development charges. Okay, so I think a single family home is about $40,000 per unit, and I think they suggest it should be $73,000 per unit for a development charge. Now, these development charges, the way it works for a developer is these development charges are paid with the building permit.
Yep.
So the building permit gets issued, the developer needs to pay for that. Okay, that's a substantial cost. That's you're talking, for a multi-residential building, you're talking close to $400,000 ish, give or take, maybe more. Okay, development charges are paid in addition to that up front as well. So if it's a 78 unit condo, and it's about 30,000. This is for a condo unit, not for a single family. 30,000 per unit. Development charges. You need to pay $30,000 per unit. So 30,000 times 78 before you even put a shovel in the ground. Okay. So that's a substantial amount of money, right? And so ultimately that comes at the developer's cost, and they have to put that money out before they even put a shovel in the ground. Okay, so that's just understanding where development charges kind of come into play and how they get paid. With respect to like how that would affect the end purchase price is ultimately that gets carried through the project. So ultimately that money that goes out, okay, it's probably going to cost a developer that money plus the additional financing over the term of the project.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just adds more cost to the total construction budget. So if a unit costs, I'm just going to throw out numbers there. If a unit costs $400,000 to build, and you're adding an additional, 10 or 15,000 per unit on the development charges, that's going to be a pass down through to the end buyer. And if the end buyer is not able to afford a certain product, then we're just not going to bring it to the market, and there's going to be less available, and ultimately they not going to be able to resolve that issue of the housing crisis.
Right.
So I think, and it's development charges there for a reason. They pay for infrastructure and municipal services, fire, school, civil infrastructure, and I don't know the exact kind of, coffers that they necessarily get divided into, but that's essentially, there is a budget, for all those items, and the development charges account for a portion of those budgets. And, we understand that. It is a big math equation that needs to get resolved, but ultimately, developers, when they go to do a project, are subjecting themselves to a lot of risk. Like millions of dollars. And a lot of time, I've seen a lot of projects where developers don't necessarily make a ton of money. Like they, ultimately end up kind of just maybe being even Steven at the end of the day. And there's really no benefit to them subjecting themselves to all that risk. So and we need people to develop.
Right.
Like we need housing units, and we need to grow. You know what I mean? So especially when we have major infrastructure projects or major battery plants in our city, right? Like that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. We need to support that growth.
Right. So there's definitely an affordable housing crisis in Canada.
For sure, absolutely.
That many are feeling. What role do developers like Fortis play in bringing a solution to that? Yeah, and that's to my last point. That's a challenge because of how unaffordable all the elements associated with development are. Comes down to creativity. Yeah.
It comes down to working with the city to provide programs and incentives that can support developers building affordable housing projects. There is a program that CMHC offers. It's a financing program. It's called the MLI Select.
Okay.
And essentially they offer favorable financing terms for projects if they meet certain thresholds with respect to affordability, efficiency, and accessibility. So that's something we are investigating. That's something we hope to maybe get involved in at some point. But there's just, like I said, there's just a lot of challenges, and it's just working through those to make the project make sense. So I think that's a good example of a program that CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, offers.
Yeah.
And we're investigating that currently for some projects that we have in the pipeline.
Now, Josh, looking forward into 2025, what project types do you see the most in demand? Commercial, flex space, multi-residential, condos, purpose-built rentals?
Well, I think residential there's going to be a strain on residential moving forward. The condo market has been very quiet in new developments for the past couple of years. I think you might see a little bit of a pickup in the condo market with respect to pre-sales and projects that will be kind of breaking ground potentially next year. Purpose-built rentals are in demand. I think that you guys are doing some interesting stuff with respect to the commercial condos or light industrial condos. I think, the flex space. I think you're going to see a lot more of that type of stuff. I think it's very cool. I think that there's a demand for that. I also think industrial land and development is going to be at the forefront for the next little bit, just with all the stuff that we have coming in with respect to the EV battery plant. But yeah, I think you're going to see a couple of condo projects probably come in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
And then definitely, purpose-built rentals are just popping up like left and right. You're going to continue to see those as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely see an influx of flex spaces recently.
Okay.
Having done 3 flex space
Yeah.
developments in the past month,
Yeah.
is having more affordable office space for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And there are programs in place to assist companies financially to move into an office space,
Mm-hmm.
because owning your own office space is not an affordable, from just past history,
Sure.
is not really affordable. So these flex spaces offer an opportunity to build as though it was a condominium complex. So you have your common fees, things like
Yeah.
that, and everyone shares the same area, the same building.
Mm-hmm.
And we noticed that because there's this new, fresh opportunity, just like when condos were really popping off a few years back, kind of during COVID. I feel like development goes in phases, right? It goes kind of
For
like,
sure. Absolutely.
ebbs and flows. And I really feel like you mentioned, the commercial space is going to be, popular moving forward, and flex spaces are very popular right now. And we both do see a comeback for condos. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that, in the Windsor market, with respect to condos kind of moving forward, is we've taken a bit of a step. Maybe, let's call it 8 years ago, you'd see a certain product that was kind of just a basic product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the condo market was kind of emerging. I think now we're seeing a little more care and detailed design associated with some of these projects.
Yeah.
And I think Soho is a project that we developed at Fortis Group that we're very proud of. I think was a bit of a linchpin when it comes to some of the product that you're going to see kind of coming to market in the next little bit. And there's a number of other good developers that have done some good projects. You were involved in one, yourself. But yeah, we're looking forward to what we have kind of in the wings. So we got some cool stuff coming.
So obviously Fortis and Scelta really focus and dial in on the client experience.
For sure.
So, how can Scelta help you guys elevate your client experience and allow for buyers to make confident decisions?
Yeah, no, I think you guys do a great job of that. With Scelta, when we get you guys, the drawings and the designs, you just are able to bring it to life, bring the colors, bring the, the touch, the feel. The fact that you're able to navigate through the unit and kind of see all the different finishes, add your upgrades as you see fit. I think there's a lot of value to that, and it gives the buyer a lot of confidence to fully understand, what they're getting, right? When we did our Soho project, we had a model suite, and we're able to kind of bring people in and out of that, but you're not able to switch faucets,
right,
and, by the click of a button. You're not able to change, the tile in the bathroom.
Right.
So with Scelta, it's great because you're able to kind of design the unit how you see fit, and then you're able to see the building in its entirety, inside and out.
I think too, from a real estate developer standpoint, it sounds like validating the market is very important before you have such a huge investment into a project,
sure.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So can you walk me through a little bit of, validating the market before breaking ground? So you just have a set of drawings, site plan, now you want to validate.
Yeah, so we essentially got to kind of go through our design and figure out what we're going to build, what materials, dial in some of the construction costs.
Yeah.
Can kind of work backwards from that point to kind of see what the units would need to sell for us to ultimately move forward with the project and for it to make sense from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
So you have to really kind of intimately understand what you're building, what you're offering, what it's going to cost you, and then kind of work backwards from that to determine what your sale price is. And then your sale price has to match what the market would be willing to pay for that product.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once you have those numbers solidified, and now you know your costs, you know what you're planning on selling for. Now, how do you go and test the market? Again, how can we help you?
Yeah, so that would be integral and kind of, have your offerings, Scelta's offerings with respect to their rendering package, floor plans, portals, and so on and so forth, and kind of going to the market with our sales team.
Yeah.
And kind of attacking the market and presenting that information, and having those meetings, having those conversations with potential buyers and other agents. yeah, that's ultimately, and then hopefully get your pre-sales and your reservations at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where you kind of find out, is there a demand for this product?
And as someone who is also in the realtor's shoes and on the sales team, how does the Scelta package equip you to communicate with your buyers? And you're also the phone number to call, right?
Yes.
So a guy like you gets, on one project, would you say hundreds of phone calls a month?
It depends on the time of year, or in terms like when, where we're at in the stage of project delivery. But if we are kind of at the nitty gritty, where we're getting ready to deliver these units, we're doing pre-delivery inspections, so on and so forth. Yeah, I'm getting 30 to 50 calls a day.
I remember being some of those calls when I was going through.
Sure, and that's understood, right? Because people need information, and these are critical dates, critical timelines. People are moving into a new home, right? So they need to be aware of kind of what's going on. So yeah, with Scelta's offering and your ability to kind of communicate to all your buyers, just one quick message in one kind of location, there's a lot of value to that for a guy like me who can maybe save 15 calls. Yeah. Because I'm able to just send out notices through that portal, as opposed to someone not getting the information and calling me or what have you. So there's a lot of value there, and even on the project management side. So our project manager, who's boots on the ground with respect to construction, they're able to kind of integrate their upgrades and what they need to deliver for each unit through that as well. So there's a lot of valuable tracking stuff that can be housed in your programs. Right. It also allows, from the sales perspective, actually I got a point to bring up. If I'm sitting here with you and you're looking to purchase and I'm a salesperson, there's definitely like an undertone of, not that I would be pressuring, because I would never do that, but you might have comfort if you're able to just look online through that portal to make some decisions or think about some things, as opposed to being present on site with an agent right there. Right. Just, you know what I mean? You have the comfort of kind of your own home and just using the portal on your own. I think there's value there too. Yeah. And how often do you, Josh, get calls for buyers saying, hey Josh, can I come to site? Can I come see the progress? Yeah. So it's funny because I get calls, but I also get calls from project managers saying, why is this person on my construction site? And I say, I don't know. Yeah. They haven't talked to them. They just showed up and they thought they could just walk on a construction site in flip-flops. So, So there's a lot of things going on in my world, and that's just an example of something like a fire I'd have to put out. Somebody showing up on a construction site in flip-flops and no hard hat. But if you go to the core reason why they stepped on site, like what is it that they want to achieve by being on site? They're just excited. Yeah. A lot of the times it's just folks are just really excited about their condo. Yeah. Or whatever, whatever the delivery is, like, they just want to see it. They want to touch it. They want to make sure that it's, what they signed up for. They are just excited. And so, I can sympathize with that because I'm excited too, but it's like. So how can you maintain that excitement while making it safe? Through Scelta, I think, through Scelta and kind of providing updates and photos. Yeah, absolutely. Through photos. Kind of maintaining a line of communication with, sub-trades, clients, stakeholders. That's really the name of the game. Just being on top of things. Our whole goal with the portal is to alleviate guys like yourself with sort of the mundane tasks, the tasks that can be achieved through technology, so you can focus more on the high-level tasks. Sure. And talking with the buyers about things that are most important to them, the things that can't just be done through checks and balances on a piece of technology. Right. Yeah. So that's our whole goal, is to equip you with that properly. Well, it looks like you guys are doing a great job, and keep up the good work. You guys have a great office. Looks like you guys are working with some great folks in the city of Windsor. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys, can do next, because it's cool. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, for sure. This has been an incredible conversation, and I'd love to see what you guys are doing. And at Fortis, it's a very exciting company. Yeah, absolutely. And I think 2025 is going to be a really exciting year for Fortis and for Scelta, and I'm excited to launch some of those things when the time comes. Absolutely. For listeners who want to learn more about
Fortis Group.
Sure.
Can they visit you at your website, which is fortisgroup.ca?
fortisgroup.ca. Have a look on there, and you can see some of the projects that we've done in the past. Also on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Josh Burns, and then on Instagram, Burns Real Estate 519.
Awesome. And can you leave the listeners with one piece of advice who aspire to be a real estate development manager like you? For the young ones out there listening.
Don't be the smartest guy in the room. Always learn and understand that, or it takes a group, you know what I mean, to accomplish the goals. So there's going to be a lot of people involved, and it's going to take everybody to get to the finish line. It's never going to be one person. It's always going to be a collective effort, and everybody pulling, their respective weight to get to that finish line. So I would say that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah. I know I've learned a lot from this conversation, so
yeah, for sure. Yeah, good to see you, David. Appreciate you having me, man.
Have a great
Let's do
holiday.
this again.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, Merry Christmas.